stone's throw from the precipice. Pause. Did he jump or did he fall as he gazed into the morning mist? Did he raise both fists and say to hell with this and just let the rock roll? Let it roll, let it crash down low. There's a house down there, but I lost it long ago. Let it roll, let it crash down low. See my house down there, but I lost it long ago. Rock roll on down to the town below. Had a house down there, but I lost it long ago. Lost it long ago. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. I'm letting it roll away. It's got nothing to do with fate. Everything to do with you. I'd rather fail like a mortal than flail like a god on a lightning rod. History forgets the moderates. Those who sit recalcitrant and taciturn. You know I'd rather turn and burn than scale this edifice, yeah. My accomplice, so take my hand, will do more than stand. Take my hand, will claim this land. Take my hand and we'll let the rock roll. Let it roll, let it crash down low. There's a house down there, but I lost it long ago. Let it roll, let it crash down low. See my house down there, but I lost it long ago. Lost it long ago. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. I'm letting it roll away. No, it's got nothing to do with fate and everything to do with. Sisyphus, peered into the mist, a stone's throw from the precipice. Paul. All right. Well, I'm going to bring up my first guest. I don't know if you saw his speech yesterday as the keynote speaker, but it was pretty riveting. So I'm going to bring up Mr. T-Bone Burnett.
Thank you. Hi. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
I thought that speech was my finest work yet.
Yeah. I would agree with that, yeah.
It's a plug. This is what we do. It's show
that's right.
business.
Yeah. Oh, the record coming out next week is called My Finest Work Yet.
It's okay, I'm okay.
It's all right.
Thank you.
So we've only met in the last, couple of months working on the True Detective's third season. We worked on a song together, and it seemed like a long time coming that you and I would enter each other's orbits, and I know so many people that have worked with you over the years, and
my wife's in love with you, so. But we're from Hollywood, so that's not a problem.
She's a lovely woman.
So I watched your speech yesterday, and what I wanted to do today was take some of what you're talking about and relate it to our work as songwriters, you know. And because both of our new records are dealing fairly pointedly with a lot of these issues, I was listening to your speech, and I was thinking. Yes, this is. It's you're talking about artists taking a stand and really being the thing we can lean on, the thing we can use to express what's going on. And I'm curious because I did a deep dive in your old discography. Like I went way back to the first records, and what I'm really impressed with is like there's no small talk in your songs. No surprise, but like you get right to the big ideas in your songs, and I really appreciate that because my whole life I feel like people are afraid to talk about these things.
Well, it's not polite. Artists say the things that you don't say in polite company, right?
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm hearing that as much as I want to. I think sometimes also in rock and roll or writing a pop song that people like, this is my escape from that thing, you know?
Yeah, well, if you want to escape.
Yeah.
You know.
But even just in conversation over my whole life, I feel like a lot of people are always saying, you're just chill out, you're getting too heavy on me. It's like, I'm like, what are you afraid of? Like, what's wrong with talking about big ideas? And what better vehicle than a song to talk about these things?
Well, you know, for centuries since we started, music was how everything was taught. Mathematics was taught through music. History was taught through music. Language was taught through music. The reason we have rhyme is so that you can remember what the next line is,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So this is all part of the learning. Music was was the currency of learning, actually, for centuries.
Yeah.
So I still believe it's good for that.
Yeah.
It wasn't used up at some point.
No.
When radio happened, say, for instance.
Well, the recording industry, as we've known it, has been just a blip on the screen of human history.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, my friend Larry Poon says that women were the first cave painters, you know, that the men would be out hunting and the women would paint everything in the caves. And he says then the men would come home at night and to build a fire, they would hit the rocks together. And once the fire started, then the animals that they had been painting on the walls would start moving. And those were the motion pictures, and the rocks were the music, you know.
Yeah.
So it goes deep back into where we started.
Absolutely. I also appreciate your use of history to point at what's happening now.
Well, if we don't have, Steve Turner has a poem that goes, history repeats itself. It has to. Nobody listens. You know.
Yeah.
So we have to remember.
Yeah. But you also feel like it's tricky in 2019 to write a song that's about current events. A lot of people could just shut down because you know we're getting bombarded with information, and that's like you're talking about. Information is currency, but music is impossible to quantify and to value and to buy and sell. That's what we're dealing with right now, and I'm kind of like, you know, it's not an easy come, easy go attitude, but like I said, music industry has not been around for very long, and we both are drawn to music that preceded the music industry, pre-war music, because of tell me if this is why you're drawn to it, but I feel like they're not always following the rules. Because you're writing song in like a certain hollow here, and it's not necessarily getting to the other hollow. Yeah,
the rules are the trees that you're resonating in the middle of in a hollow, you know. So, I had something to say, something to say, but now I forgot it.
Yeah.
Oh, what were you saying before that? The rules.
Yeah.
So the reality is there are no rules, and all the art I like the best is art that's made by artists working under full autonomy. Mm-hmm. And I love working on first records with people. Like I've done that with a lot of artists, Los Lobos and Counting Crows and the Bodines. And back in the old days when I was producing a lot of records, I did a lot. I really enjoyed making first records because somebody would have spent years writing and making music that they had complete autonomy over. That they didn't have any experts teaching them the rules. You know? So that's what. I try to always work under full autonomy, actually.
Yeah. But I'm thinking about those moments in like a Charlie Patton tune or a Cardi Family song where they turn the beat around, they add 2 random beats to a phrase. Like all those things that are like, that take so, when you're trying to learn the song and be faithful to it, you're like, what are they doing? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But those are the things that you cherish about it now,
That's
because
right.
Everything became so codified.
Well, yeah, blues became 12-bar blues, but there were 4-bar blues and 8-bar blues. There were a lot of different. There were 14-bar blues.
Mm-hmm.
There were 5/4 blues.
Yeah.
There's a great song by Abbey Lincoln and Max Roach called "Drive a Man." That's a blues song in 5/4. It's deep.
Yeah, or like half of Charlie Patton's discography are just really just hymns.
Yeah, that's right.
Not so much like the 12-bar thing, because
Yeah,
that
that's
hadn't
right.
been codified yet.
Right.
Anyway, but back to the writing songs in 2019 that can stay, that can maybe get beyond the choir, is the goal.
Yeah, right.
Like your songs really get to the heart of the matter very quickly. Like there's not much. I mean, I went looking at your discography again. It's like I was trying to make sense of it because you've become known as a producer more recently, relatively. But I was looking more at the work you were doing in the '80s, and it was so cool and odd, and not necessarily rootsy at times. They were what we considered a classic T-Bone Burnett thing. And I really found it like a mix of like Randy Newman and Oingo Boingo or something like.
Yeah, I've dug both of them. That's for sure.
I suggest you check out the early records.
Well, thank you. I want to say that Randy Newman's song "Sail Away" is probably the greatest use of irony in the English language. And there's all this cheap irony around these days, but what irony actually is taking the point of view that's opposite from the point of view you're expressing and ridiculing a point of view. That's what irony is, and he did that perfectly in "Sail Away." That's a benchmark for me.
It is. It's a beautiful song. Now, I still wanted to do some music, and maybe you'll take the role of producer here, because I wanted to do a song from the new record that I thought was speaking to what you're talking about yesterday, in a sense that we're in this kind of devil's bargain as we're actually acting out right now, because we're broadcasting via Facebook and YouTube, and you're talking about the.
They've destroyed everything else. So
yes,
that's what we have. That's what we have to work with at the moment.
I don't touch the stuff myself either, except that I like to use it as a broadcast signal.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the way I'm thinking of it. Just like you think of sometimes you think of the computer as a tape machine. You're just lying to yourself.
Yeah. Well, as long as humans are using machines as tools.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. When machines start using humans, like auto-tune and those sorts of things, we're getting into trickier territory.
Yeah.
Right? So that's me being a producer, by the way.
Yeah, totally. So this is a song called Bloodless that it's where I kind of tested the line of how explicit to be when talking about what's been going on in our politics and our culture, and I pushed that line as far as I think I'm comfortable with, but we'll see. The foe. They're profiting from your worry. They're selling blanks down at the DMZ. They're banking on the sound and fury makes you wonder what it all's got to do with me. Bloodless for now. I'm keeping mine with the altruist, putting my weight behind the dancer. I know it's hard to be an optimist. Oh no, trust least the ones who claim to have the answers. It's an uncivil war. It's an uncivil war. Oh, it's an uncivil war, Lord. Bloodless for now. And the poets, they explode like bombs. Bloodless for now. The gentry's drinking Moet Chandon. Bloodless for now. They turn around and quote a well-known song. Don't you worry about the wicked. Don't you envy those who do wrong. And your innocence will be like the dawn, while the justice of your cause will shine like the noonday sun. And fade.
That was perfect. Do it again.
How about do it 7 times with feeling?
Yeah. Or I don't know. What do you think? It's one of those two things. You know?
But there's a line from that of I'm keeping mine with the altruist. I'm putting my weight behind the dancer. Remind me of what you were talking about yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Of like, you know, it's not like it seems like we're having to choose sides here, but it's not that it's a question for me, but I mean, just there's a right side to this, you know?
Yeah, it's the machines don't need us, you know.
Right. And I what I'm talking about in that song, the Uncivil War, there's a line later, 1936 in Catalonia. I'm pushing the line. I'm like talking about cautionary things. You know, we're heading in this direction.
Guernica, was that
1936 in Catalonia?
Yeah.
Spanish Civil War.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where Guernica came from. That painting, right? Wasn't it?
Oh, is there a
Picasso's
painting called
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is that right? Am I right? I can't remember.
Okay. I was thinking of George Orwell's Ode to Catalonia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
Which
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
makes me think about the current atmosphere in our country, but it's also, I'm talking about also overall about that devil's bargain you're talking about, of like that we're being played against each other.
That's right.
By sometimes possibly just an algorithm. Like I've had very telling but strange conversations with very close family members, and we were like, get into a tussle, and then I'd be like, where are you getting your information?
Right.
And then he's like, where are you getting your information?
Right.
And we actually had a moment where like, wait, maybe we're totally, we stopped for a minute fighting. We're like maybe we're being completely played. I mean,
We are being played,
Yeah.
definitely. You know, the mafia has a question whenever something goes down in town. They say, who gains, right?
Right.
So we just have to look at who's gaining through all of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your family.
well, here's my question.
Right?
No.
Nor mine.
But it seems like you believe that there's a mastermind, an insidious Henry Kissinger type character behind it.
Well, I don't know a mastermind. No, maybe who's the guy down here? The conspiracy guy, Alan somebody. What's his name? Something or other. Yeah,
Alex
that
Jones.
Mr. Jones.
Oh, sure.
Something's happening here, but you don't know what it is, do you, Mr. Jones? You know, he'll come up with any goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Because he don't know.
Yeah. And getting quite wealthy off of that as well.
Is he? Well, that'll be gone
I'm
soon.
assuming so. I don't know.
Easy come, easy go on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
deal.
So, but talking about that algorithm, sometimes T-Bone sends me very cryptic texts that have no context. And now they're encrypted, actually. And one of them that I didn't even know how to respond to, because I was just like, we could go deep with this one, but I wasn't sure if that was the medium for it. But about how there's these algorithms that are generating wealth.
Well, yeah, we've found now that there are, excuse me, AI-generated tweets that lead to AI-generated advertisement pages that are then read by robots. So it's pure ad fraud. No human being ever sees an ad, but there's several web pages that you go to, and they'll have 1.2 million tweets, and every tweet leads you to a different page with hundreds of ads on it. A robot will go click the tweet, go to the other page, and then click on all the ads, and then all the advertisers pay for all these ads that nobody ever sees. There's a big new ad fraud business going on, which is, I guess it serves them right.
Right. Yeah. But I wanted to do a song of yours called "Everything and Nothing," which speaks to some of the contradictions and dichotomies that is in both of our works.
Right on.
I mean, you got a record coming out, which the song is not on any record. It's from another project.
Yeah, this is a debut of this song.
Okay, and it's a lot of lyrics. I didn't have time to internalize it all, but I'm going to do my best here. All right. Remember, we'll just do that kind of tag at the top. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everybody wants to know the truth, but nobody wants to hear it. Everybody has to face the end, but nobody wants to get near it. Everybody wants peace, but nobody wants to surrender. Everybody lives in the past, but nobody seems to remember. Nobody knows the end of the story. We must wait for it to unfold. Everybody wants to live a long time, but nobody wants to get old. Everybody wants to be forgiven, but nobody wants to confess. And everybody's seeking after the pleasure, but everyone's in pain nonetheless. Everyone wants to be free, but no one can pay the price. Everybody's living in hell. They fell out of paradise. There's nothing as long as never, nothing so hard to hold. And everybody wants to live forever, but nobody wants to get old. It's such a great song, and it comes out of the gate with a list of ideas, but then there's little hints of emotion in there, like more personal struggle, not just a list of concepts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what I think is important when you're presenting ideas and songs. I think is to leave enough ambiguity in there for people to apply their own life experience to it. You know.
That's right. Yeah, it's not. You can't be pedantic in a song. You have to be open and generous. Yeah. Generosity is the hallmark of an artist. Mm-hmm. So that's our job. All the arrows are supposed to go that way. They're not supposed to go this way.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some shoegaze bands that would beg to differ.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. So we worked on True Detectives. We did I would call it a songwriting collaboration. It was really, I went over to T-Bone's house maybe 5 or 6 times, and we talked about the overall concept of that episode, of the series, of that season.
Yeah.
And I watched the pilot, and it was all talking about, the protagonist is struggling with memory, and time is not entirely linear in the way the season unfolds, and it's very complicated in time structure, and then it was fun kind of trying to figure out how on the nose to be with it, because it's hard to get an assignment like write a song that's based on this, without it coming in too heavy-handed,
Right. Yeah.
And I had fun like kind of figuring out that line, with you on how explicit to be. I didn't actually get a chance to see the episode where it was in, but what was the scene that it was happening?
It was happening in a coffee shop, and Wayne's wife, the protagonist's wife. You haven't seen that yet?
I don't have HBO.
I thought that was the best music in the whole series. I really did.
Oh.
The score and everything.
Yeah.
Really,
the score is amazing too, and I didn't think of you so much as a composer of scores. I know you've done that.
I don't think of myself that way either.
But like the opening sequences, I was watching you work on them with the Mellotron, and it had this kind of warbly, kind of analog synth sound that was just, I don't know, it was really cool. And you have collaborators like Keefus and Jay Bellerose, the drummer, are like your main circle in this new group, right?
Yeah, and they play on all the new record. It's just the 3 of us.
Yeah.
On the new records, I should say.
Yes. And there's just one song. I was trying to hear the rest of the record, but there's just one song out there right now called "Being There," which is beautiful.
Thank you.
Was that a sample of a bandoneon in there?
No, that's Keefus playing. It's a harmonium. I think.
Harmonium. Okay. It's really haunting, and then it makes sense with the sort of spoken word dystopian thing, and then it's just really cool production. I really, from what I've heard, I haven't heard the rest of the record, but
when we get back to town, I'll play it for you. I want to play it for you.
Yeah.
It's
awesome.
best heard. It's a very full range record, so it's most fun to hear it on a big system. It's got about an octave or 2 on the bottom that you don't hear except maybe in a movie theater when there's a car crash or something.
Sure.
And then maybe an octave on top. So it's a immersive listening experience.
Yeah, cool. Well, the final song I wanted to do was a Carter Family tune that sort of demonstrates both in songwriting for me and also in older folk traditions how malleable and how much people are borrowing from each other. When I remember there was a big controversy a few years ago when they were talking about Dylan quoting poets from the 18th century, and I was like, what's wrong with that? Like, probably someone you haven't read before. Isn't that cool to get someone turn you on to that?
Yeah. If you look at all Dylan in particular, if you put every one of his lyrics into a search engine and found the source of every lyric, you would find every book Bob ever read, every movie he ever saw,
we're not in a vacuum.
No, but that's what artists do. What artists basically do is we mark things. We say, on this day I went to this place and I saw this thing and it was good, and so I'm marking it, and I want you to check it out. If you're walking by, check it out.
Yeah. But this traces the lineage from the Carter family, a pre-war, early country gospel group. You'll recognize the melody was lifted almost note for note by Woody Guthrie, who was then Dylan lifted a lot from Woody Guthrie in turn. So it's just this beautiful lineage through generations. I think it's the way things should be. And I think it kind of relates to, as when you're writing a song, I don't know if you find this, in the first stages of writing a song, that your ideas are kind of unfaithful. Do you ever find this, like that they will go off and wander off and hang out with another idea?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the fun of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and I wish you could stay in that sort of fluid state the whole time, and still hang together and make sense. But I think that relates to that oral tradition folk thing, where things are just being picked up by ear, and they might oftentimes misunderstood, and that's part of the evolution of the song. Anyway, so we're going to do When the World's on Fire to close up, and yeah. My loving mother, when the world's on fire, don't you want God's bosom to be your pillow? Oh, tide me over in the rock of ages, cleft for me. I'm going to heaven when the world's on fire. Don't you want God's bosom to be your pillow? Oh, tide me over in the rock of ages, cleft for me. Loving sinner, when the world's on fire, don't you want God's bosom to be your pillow? Oh, tide me over in the rock of ages, cleft for me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. Oh, this land was made for you and me. Thank you, T-Bone Burnett. Anything else you want to?
No, thank you.
Thanks for such a great speech yesterday, and for illuminating things for us.
Let's go make some more music.
Okay, sounds good. T-Bone Burnett. All right, we're going to take a very short break, and then we're going to be back with Yola. Don't miss it.